Hey losers, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I told you I was gonna do it, and here I am doing it. I'm following through. So I'm here today with a mid-month wrap up so that at the end of the month I can do the next 2 weeks of the month, my reading, you know, and then it won't be a 40-minute long video. It's just hard to edit something that long. I'm sure it's hard to watch something that long, and also I feel like I don't get to speak in depth about what I read because I'm trying to not take too fucking long. So here I am. We'll see. I mean, if I don't read enough to justify doing a mid-month one, you know, in following months, then I will not be, but I think this month will definitely need it. So in total, for the first half of the month, I read 7 books. 4 of them were off of my TBR, so those are books that I bought previous to this year, and all 7 count towards my Read What You Own challenge. I read 2,545 pages, which is about 170 pages a day. 5 of these books were horror, 2 were thrillers. The oldest book I read the first half of this month was published in 1980. Then we jump all the way to 2011. I read a book published in 2016, 1 from 2021, and then 3 new release books. Boy, I'm telling you right now, this is really a mixed bag. There are some books that I read and really enjoyed here, but most of them were not great for me, or just there's a couple that were just really not great, and then there were some that were just fine, but it's hard to read a lot of books like that over and over again, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping the second half of my month isn't quite so bad. So first, here is Fever Pitch by Buddy Ferm. This was published in 1980, although you would not know it reading this book because one of the biggest issues I had with it is that it uses a lot of outdated language. In this book, we are following a family. It's this family saga almost kind of book. Really not a horror book at all, but it's this pharma company, and at the very beginning of the book, there's this huge upset because the former CEO, the father of the family, and the former CEO has died, and instead of passing the company on to his son, which is what this company has done for generations, he passes it on to his son-in-law, Brian, who, I don't know, he's just really milquetoast. I don't know, this book was so stupid. So, there's this illness going on that's killing people, and they get this contract with the government to do some medical experimentation because one of the sisters of the family is a sexy scientist, and Brian previously had a relationship with her, and then she went overseas, and he's like, I don't like that she's independent, and then he decided to marry her sister instead, who he doesn't really like. It's oh great. So it's there's this kindling romance. This sexy scientist has to decide whether she's going to marry a scientist who respects what she does, or is she going to marry Brian, who she had a fling with, it didn't work out, he showed his true colors, right? But what if we could work it out, kind of a thing. And it's oh my god, lady. It's just so silly. So not only does it have some dated language, in particular referring to these black prisoners that they're experimenting on, not really hard slurs, but just it's very dated, even for the 80s, you know what I mean? So not just that, but also the ideas about women. It's all the women in this book, except for the sexy scientist, is like trash. Horrible women doing like sneaky bad things, right? And then on the other hand, every man except for Brian, the new CEO, is like really pathetic and dumb and like doing dumb shit. So it's like none of these characters are really interesting because they're just really caricature-ish and stuff like that. So I have to say I did not enjoy my time with this book. I did not enjoy it. It took forever to get to the part where it's like, oh, this is the conflict of the book, and it's like at the very end, and like not even really. I mean, there are some like smaller things that pop up, like for example, someone is skimming off their supply of, I think it's morphine, so it's like, who's doing that? You know, and things like that. So next, I read Dead 11 by Jimmy Juliano. This was a 2023 release, and I thought it was just okay. This book is about, oh boy, there's like two timelines and points of view in this, and one is in the near past. We're following a woman named Willow who lost her son, and then she's not progressing through the grieving process, let's say. She's really, and like, not that I know what that's like or anything like that, but it's like she's obviously she's not where most people would be, I should say, for the amount of time that has passed between her son's death and where she is now. And she's really, you know, his room is basically a shrine and stuff like that. So she's really surprised one day when she finds the words Clifford Island carved into his floor, and she's like, what? So she does all this shit trying to find out where this place is, and it's like, you can't find any information on this place. So finally she goes there. So that's one timeline, and Clifford Island is like stuck in the past. Like, they're all dressed like it's the early 90s. There's no recent technology, things like that, and no one really is forthcoming as to like why that is, because it's like the whole entire island, even the children who were not born in the 90s, they're even doing it. So it's like, why would this be? And the other timeline is Willow's brother, and this is more like present tense. Willow's been missing, and so he goes to Clifford Island to see what's going on. And yeah, I don't know. It was fine. I didn't really, none of it wowed me, I guess I should say. It felt really long. One thing I did kind of enjoy is that there are breaks in the book where it's like you're reading interviews or you're reading like text message exchanges, which I always kind of have a soft spot for, like the multimedia setup, right? The characters were fine and the conflict was fine. I feel like it could have been, like, the setup of it could have been so eerie, right? And it just didn't quite get that for me. Now, a book that I did really like, this is The Book of the Most Precious Substance by Sara Gran. You might recognize that name because she wrote this crazy novella called Come Closer a couple years ago, which, like, I feel like most people who read it, most horror readers who have read it, are like, yeah, that one is creepy as fuck. So this is toned down on the horror scale for sure. This is about a woman who is a rare book dealer, and this is like, you know, I'm reading this and I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. But for Lily, like, she just does this kind of to get by because what she was doing as a writer is not working for her anymore after her husband was diagnosed with a serious illness, and he is very low functioning now, and it's kind of like sucked all of the life out of her, she feels like. So at a, I don't know, book meetup, book sale type of thing, At one point, she gets wind of somebody looking for a book called The Book of the Most Precious Substance. And she's like, I have never heard of this before. That's so crazy. And that person dies. Her and this other bookseller team up, of course. And they get like a lead on who could be looking for this book, because rumor has it they're willing to pay a lot of fucking money for it. And Lily could really use a lot of fucking money right now. So it's really like a big hunt for this book, which I really did like this book, but the book hunting part got a little repetitive because it's a lot of traveling and meeting up with people and asking about the book and asking, do you have this book? Because, you know, there's maybe only a couple copies, if any, exist, right? So like they don't even know that this thing exists. It gets really strange. Like it is lower on the scale of spooky than Come Closer was, but it is much higher on the scale of strange stuff. And I ended up really liking this. I liked the conclusion, the ending. Yeah, the ending is a great ending. That's all I want to say about it. I don't want to potentially plant any ideas in anyone's heads, but I do really appreciate the ending of that book. It was a good book. I also read this month Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. I cannot let one of her books sit on my shelves for too long. This one was published this year, and I hate it, but like I didn't really like this book very much at all. It's better to know less going into this. So I will give a very, very brief synopsis of this, or description of this, and that is that, God, I don't even know, what do I say here? So it's basically a book about a man writing a book about his like childhood on this island, or not this island, on this coast where his family vacationed. And I don't know, like that's all I can tell you, I guess. He meets some friends and some shit happens, and it goes through parts of his life, so it's looking back on the past and then also into the present and future, I guess, kind of. I mean, not the future, but you're with him for longer in the book. I don't know what I'm saying, fuck. But I guess all I want to say about this, other than that, is I liked how these strands of story tied into each other and made like a woven story, but I did not like the journey to get to that shit. You know what I mean? Like this felt boring, honestly. I didn't really like any of the characters that much, and not even in like a they're unlikable so I didn't like them, but they're just kind of all annoying and like grating to be around. And then it's like I really appreciate the storytelling ability that Catriona Ward has, like the way she has these little clues in her story, and it's like they don't even seem like they're clues until you're done with it and you're like, oh yeah. So like that part of it I appreciate so much. And it was really, like, as much as I didn't like reading this story, like I did really like putting her puzzle together and seeing how it all fit and how, you know, what the final picture was. It was creative and strange, and I don't know how to feel about this book, honestly, but I think that this is probably my least favorite of hers to date. But I know like a lot of people don't share that opinion, so that's fine. I just like really didn't like hanging out in this book for so long, but I'm also like kind of glad I didn't put it down because of the way that the ending was, you know what I mean? It's very confusing to be me. So then a book I'm only going to talk about very briefly. This was published in 2011. This is The Ritual by Nevill. I'm going to be doing a well, you know what? I will give just a brief description here because the other video I do is going to be full of spoilers. So, you know, not everyone wants to see that, but briefly, I guess, this is a story about 4 friends who go camping together. They were, well, I don't know, are they even friends at this point? Kind of not. Like, they were college friends. They've all kind of drifted apart. Their ways of life are very different now, and different from each other and different from what they were, obviously. And they get together to do this hike, and just like immediately it starts off on the wrong foot, and it just gets progressively worse. And there's like a creature in the woods, and something spooky happens, and I don't even know, like, there is a latter half of this book that just goes off the rails. It's something I did not see coming. It was so, like, weird. And so I don't want to say anything about that in this, because I would like for the people who have not read this to experience that for themselves and just how bonkers this goes. But what was my point? I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was so creepy, like, especially the creature in the woods. It's, just the way it, like, it's like movement and stuff. It's so creepy. It's so creepy. So I did really like this. It was a nice chilly read. Then, womp womp, another book I didn't like. This is The Rib from Which I Remake the World by Kurtz. This was published in 2016, and this I thought was like about a carnival, and it's not quite that. It's more about like a sideshow, but like without the cool aspects of like carnival sideshow stuff. What happens here is, I don't even know what to call them. I think they call them carnies like at some point, but they're not like in charge of running games or anything at a carnival. Like, I don't know. What they are doing is showing what they call a hygiene film at the local theater, and it is like kind of like a salacious health class film. You know what I mean? Like, they would not show that in health classes now, I don't think, but it is that type of like scare you away from sex kind of a thing, where it's about a young girl who gets mixed up with a boy and ends up in a family way kind of a thing, and it shows the live birth, which is like the catch, right? And it really causes a stir in this small town because anyone can watch it, right? Anyone can pay a nickel or whatever to go see it. And they somehow, these like carnival people, I don't know what to call them, get mixed up with like the house detective at a hotel, which is another strange thing. Is that something that I should have looked that up, but it's such a strange thing, and it makes me like, I believe that could have been, but I don't know for sure. Anyways, shit happens in this town, and I just found this dreadfully boring the entire time. It was so hard to get through this, and I didn't even, it's like I read 100 pages and I was like, oh god, right? I should put this down. But then I kept pushing myself because I was like, something has to happen at some point, right? Nothing happened. And I read the whole thing, and I get to mark it off for my read what you own challenge, I guess. But this was just, I really don't know what this was trying to say. And thinking about like the beginning of the story and like the end of the story, it's like, how did we get from there to here? I have no idea. This could have been easily like 150 pages shorter and much more entertaining, but I am not an author. I'm just a complainer. Last book I would like to tell you about today, though, is Whalefall by Daniel Kraus. I really like this. I wouldn't say it's like a 5-star read, but I did really like this. This was published this year. This has been really buzzy, especially around the time when it came out this summer. And I'm here to tell you, I did think it was really good. So this is really good, but it is not a horror story. It is like a survival story, but it is just really heavily steeped in grief. And I would say it's more of the tones are more thriller than horror. It's just like slow, steady, like squeeze on your sanity kind of a book, in a good way. So this is about a young, like a teenage boy named Jay, and he is estranged from his family. He has a terrible relationship with his father, but his father dies by suicide. He is diagnosed with cancer and then lets himself sink to the bottom of the ocean in his scuba gear, right? Which is something that his life revolved around, really, was working in the ocean. And Jay was also a reluctant participant in that, which is really a big cause of this estrangement. But Jay feels, you know, really bad about that. He hadn't seen his dad before this happened, really, and so he decides that he's going to go to where he knows his father dove, and he's going to see if he can recover any remains. And while this is happening, he gets swallowed by a whale, which shouldn't happen typically, but there are circumstances surrounding this engulfment that makes sense. So this is really it's like tense, but it is slow and it feels dreadful and hopeless. In this, Jay is really grappling with his feelings about his father. There is a lot of character growth in this. The chapters are really short, so it's like, oh, like you just can't stop, but it's, I don't know, it's wild. It's a wild ride. The one thing is that I am somebody who needs a lot of visuals in my writing, and maybe it's just me, but I feel like I had a really hard time envisioning what it would look like to be in the stomach of a whale. So that was kind of a problem for me sometimes. Just like, it's like my brain hyperfixates on it. It's really dumb. I wish it didn't, but it does, of course. So I think that's like the biggest thing for me, is like I maybe needed some more visuals. I liked it still. I thought it was very good. Very sad. So those are the 7 books I read in the first half of the month. Stay tuned. At the end of the month, I will be doing another separate wrap up for what I've read in the meantime. I would love to know if you read any of these, what you thought about them, if you have any thoughts on them. What else? I would just like to say fucking thank you. I hope you're having a great December, and I will see you later. Goodbye.